Yep.
Hell, man. Well, then let's get straight to it. We are live, everyone. Back on Monday after conference championship weekend, and we're down to one game left in the NFL. One game left,
Yep.
and
That's all it comes down to. It's just this last final game, and it does make me kind of question my life because it's like, damn, did we really spend all season dissecting all these teams and looking over matchups, and it came down to the one seed in both conferences?
one seed in both of them. I mean, that's also the beauty of it because it's like, man, we much of it, but no, guys, we are excited. We have a good show for you. We're mainly gonna talk about these two games and maybe give a little take on the Super Bowl, what we might want to see in terms of matchups. We'll do more of a dissection on that later date and time. But we are talk about this two games now, and I think we got to start. But before we do want to give a shout out to E2G Sports, who has helped bring 305 takes from audio only to audio and visual. If you want to hear our audio version, head over to the website e2gsports.com. There's a tab on podcasts. You can find ours and other various podcasts that talks other sports such as NBA, MLB, other NFL, college. Even have some WWE podcasts there. You guys can go check them out. They're great people, great shows. We listen to them a lot. And if you want the visual version, don't go to the E2G Sports YouTube channel. A lot of great content there as well as ours. And we even see some collaborations that we've had with other channels. And yeah, let's get into it now. Conference championship weekend. Miles, I think we'll start with late game after, but we kind of have to talk Eagles 49ers. And
Ah,
for anyone that doesn't know, me and Miles, we generally text throughout NFL Sunday because we're like, oh my God, bro, did you see this moment? It's like, bro, I see this. Like, you guys got this play. And I could admit, like, out of all the games we've ever texted, that one was probably the least because we just had nothing to talk about.
the last thing I remember texting you from that game was they should try Wildcat and have McCaffrey and Debo in the backfield. That's
And
the
that's
last thing
it.
I remember texting you because it was it was Purdy got out, and then I was like, damn, if they go down 14, it's over. It's a wrap. And then, but there was a brief moment when they got it tied 7-7. I was like, dude, if Shanahan does this, like you can't say
He
anything about the
pulled
guy.
this
If
rabbit out.
Shanahan
That
does this with Josh Johnson, you can't say anything about the dude. But it was just, I mean, I was talking to you before the game. I mean, before we started recording, I just wish that Purdy was given the shot. Like, I get that he was injured, and I'm not even saying that it necessarily changes the final score, but and like I told you, I was like, I just wish he was given the shot. And maybe that shot included 4 interceptions in this game, and they lose by an even wider margin of defeat. But I just wanted him to get the shot. I mean, the guy had gotten them all the way to this point after being Mr. Irrelevant, and then I mean, like he came back after the whole Josh Johnson thing, but like he clearly couldn't throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage,
he didn't do anything.
and they kept showing McCaffrey like getting the play call, the microphone in his helmet. So I thought they were
Yeah.
gonna do like, like a running back toss, and the next thing you know, he's throwing it to Debo downfield. Or I mean, we hear all the time about this Hughes check guy playing quarterback at Harvard, and it
Yeah.
wasn't a thing, but I do feel it's
Dewan
just
Jennings played quarterback in high school.
and like this is just like the year of the quarterback injury. Like we've
Yeah.
seen it with my Miami Dolphins this year. Me and you
The
have been talking about
49ers.
the Josh Allen thing. Then the 49ers happens. Mahomes happens in the playoffs. Lamar doesn't play in his playoff game. Like it was a very Matthew Stafford
Even the
goes out
Ravens,
after
Tyler
winning the
Huntley
Super Bowl.
got hurt too.
What's up?
No, Tyler Huntley got hurt too. And remember
Exactly.
going into
Yeah.
the
So it's
final
just
week,
been
Baltimore played some guy, I forgot his name.
it's been a super strange year. Even like the rookie, Kenny Pickett had 2 different concussions this year. So
Concussions.
it's just been a very strange year as far as the quarterback injury situation, and that's taken into account how much the NFL has gone to protect these quarterbacks. But I mean, the Eagles did basically everything they needed to do in that game, except make a couple big plays on offense. And I'm sure we'll get to it later because there was some suspicious refereeing activity in that Chiefs game. But how did that Devontae Smith play stand?
Because they
Like
went
how?
so fast. I understand, like in real time, I thought it was a catch, and I was like, oh my God, he made a unbelievable play.
Real
But
time,
then
yeah,
once like
100%. It looked like a catch because they didn't show the slow down replay. But that's the
they
whole
didn't,
point of the whole
and
system.
they went straight to the line, snapped the ball. Once we get back from commercial break after a touchdown, that's when we see the replay and it's not a catch. And I'm like, oh, that touchdown shouldn't even be there.
Yeah, and I thought Fox did a really good job of covering it because every time they mentioned it afterwards, they called it controversial. And then they just said, I mean, they didn't, try to escape it and say, oh, we didn't have this thing. They just said we didn't have it fast enough. And Greg Olson, who was doing the commentary on that, was saying that teams have like code words for like, hey, I don't think I completed this catch, get to the line, get to the line. And he was like, I'm sure Devontae Smith was telling him that. And the Eagles did do a great job of getting to the line, but I just thought I didn't think that was still a possibility in the NFL because I've always wanted teams just to get to the line and don't even give the coach the opportunity to challenge it. But they have this expedited replay that comes in all the time now. And so I thought it was over. I didn't think that was a thing anymore, but apparently, maybe you got some Eagles fans over there in the Fox broadcast truck,
Yeah.
getting a little
They were
slow on
just
the
like, hey,
replay.
bro, if you didn't catch that, don't until after the commercial.
But this Eagles defense is definitely really, really, really scary. Like, and again, I thought Olsen did a great job pointing out that when Ndamukong Suh is like your sixth or seventh best pass
That's a
rusher, like
pretty deep line.
that's a
That's a deep
deep, deep defensive line.
man. You got to give them credit. They played up to their strengths. Their strength is scrimmage on both sides, and they did that. They were able to crush the 49ers, and then while the Eagles were on defense by getting to Brock Purdy, making Josh Johnson feel essentially nervous most of the time, and then for their running game, they were able to run the ball pretty well once the game like got further into it. At the beginning, they couldn't get anything because the 49ers were able to stop it, but also I feel like I don't like saying this just because it makes me sound like a hater, but it's technically is true. Has any other team had an easier ride to the Super Bowl? I mean,
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, the Bengals would have had a pretty easy ride. They did have to beat the Bills, but they would have been a banged up Mahomes, but they were eliminated. I mean, I
yeah,
remember when Brady went the first year in Tampa, and he had to beat
yeah, like you
Heineke.
have Drew Brees. Oh well, they faced Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, it was
Then they
Heineke,
went
Breeze, and then
Brees and then
NFC
Rodgers.
Championship game. Was it Rodgers?
Yeah, they beat Rodgers and Lambeau, and then they beat Mahomes. But hear me out on this schedule. So week one, Philly plays the Detroit Lions. Detroit wasn't time that was just all offense, no defense. Then they play Minnesota. We know what they are. To Commanders, I think we could come into agreement. Carson Wentz is just not good. Jacksonville. Jacksonville was not on the hot streak that they were. Then they play Arizona. Arizona, terrible football team. There's a reason why they don't have a head. They played Dallas. They beat them 26-17. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Houston. They lose to the Commanders where they just kept turning over the ball. They beat the Colts. They beat the Packers. They beat Tennessee. They beat the Giants, then the Bears. Then they lose 2 back-to-back games against Dallas and New Orleans. And then they end the season beating the Giants and then go into the playoffs. They beat the Giants again, and they beat San Francisco, who was down to their 4th-string quarterback, and a bunch of injuries to Fred Warner, Bosa. The list just goes on for the injuries that happened to the 49ers. So I go, all right, like, who did you legitimately play that was not the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I think their last like actual competitive quarter of football was against the Colts
That's about it.
when they won it, and Sirianni said this is for Frank Reich, and
By
I mean,
1 point.
and this is their quarterbacks that they've beaten since week 18: Davis Webb, Daniel Jones, Josh Johnson / an injured Brock Purdy / a Christian McCaffrey / Kyle Juszczyk.
So, like, who did they beat? It's not like to sound like a hater, but it's true. Like, I feel like they had the easiest road to the Super Bowl of any team, but now we'll see. We'll see if they were just that dominant.
Well, the Patriots a couple years ago too, when they had who who they beat in the it was the Jaguars. Like that had a good
Oh,
defense. That was a talented like team overall, but it was
Bortles.
Blake Bortles at quarterback.
Yeah, I forgot who did. I know they beat. I don't know if they beat the Ravens that year
Here, I'm
too.
trying to pull it up in that one. This was the 2017 season, I believe.
Yeah, 2017, 2018, one of those two, or 2016. No, it's
Well,
because they played Philly that year. Yeah, they played Philly for the Super Bowl.
yeah, so they were favored by 12 points in their first matchup of the playoffs against Tennessee, a Tennessee team that had beaten Kansas City. Um, it was, I guess, the third biggest opening line since the 1990s for a playoff game. 12
And
and a half
Tennessee,
points.
that was Marcus Mariota.
But yeah, New England scored 35 unanswered points on that Tennessee team. And then the Jaguars beat Pittsburgh to set up the matchup with the Patriots. So it depends. It could be either one. I got to do some more research on that one because, but I mean, this one just screams because they just look so dominant. Like there wasn't really a stretch in either of those games against either the Giants or the 49ers. Even when the 49ers tied it at 7, like I thought like, okay, wow, like we might be in for like an incredible coaching thing, coaching. But once they had the turnover, once Josh Johnson let that snap just bounce off his hands
It
right
just went
before the
downhill.
end of the first half, and Philadelphia was able to score another rushing touchdown, I was like, yeah, this is over.
Yeah, like
This is
it's
over.
nothing against the Eagles, but I just feel like they played all these good teams, but they played them so early that they just weren't on their roll. Detroit was
I
not
just
playing like the way
feel
they were at the end
bad
of the
for
year.
I feel bad for this 49ers team, man. Like this is
Yeah,
tough. Like if you look at the stretch over the last couple of years, starting with the Super Bowl that they have a lead in the fourth quarter. They have a
they lose
lead
to
in the
Patrick
fourth quarter,
Mahomes.
and then Jimmy G's like, "Yep, I'm gonna start throwing passes with my eyes closed." Yep, that's how I was taught. Then
Next year after they didn't make the playoffs.
yeah, they didn't make the playoffs that year, but then they go last year, they beat Rodgers in Lambeau. They have a lead on the eventual Super Bowl champions, and Jimmy Ward has a interception bounce off his face mask in the fourth quarter of that game.
Yep, that
So
it
that's
was.
last year, and then this year, they
They just get
finally get
spanked.
this quarterback that they traded up for. He's starting their games for them. He breaks his ankle. Okay, so we go back to the quarterback that we were going to send to the moon before the season starts. He goes back on a run. He gets hurt. Then we got the last pick in the draft, and the kid can't lose a game. The kid can't lose a game, and he gets hurt in the NFC Championship game. Oh,
Yeah, that's
I
it.
was trying to figure out because you know how I love like the karma, like I was saying with Joe Burrow, like because they drafted Jamar Chase over School, he's never going to be able to have an
Yeah.
offensive line. I was trying to do the same with Shanahan. The best I could come up with was, all right, since you were in Washington with your dad and you had RG3 who had the
All
amazing
quarterbacks just break
rookie
down.
year, and then drafted Kirk Cousins in that same draft. So you drafted two starting quarterbacks in the same draft. You can't have another one since, but I feel like that's still even bad karma.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it's
mean,
because he had a 28-3 lead with the MVP of the season of the NFL and Matt Ryan.
yeah,
Maybe
and he
that's
just
the karma.
yeah, and he just decided, hey, let me just keep throwing the ball instead of running it every play and off at least 2 minutes on the clock. But that's just me. The but no, like you said, bigger picture, it sucks for the 49ers. It does. Like to get this far after losing Trey Lance in week 2, then you have Jimmy, you lose him, Brock, then you can't lose a game. Your team looks healthy overall outside that position. You're able to have Debo for the game. You had George Kittle. Brandon Ayuk was having a great season. And then your defense was on a roll. You arguably had the defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, who is arguably the best linebacker in the game. Your secondary is still like pretty iffy in my eyes. You still have Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward is good,
And
but
Chardavius is good. It depends on the matchup. Like if it's a
yeah, it just
super
depends on
fast
the
guy
matchup.
But if it's a guy he can be physical with, I like that matchup.
Yeah, and then to lose to the mainly because injuries kept piling on, and then you're down to your fourth string quarterback. It sucks. It really does
Yeah.
suck to be a 49er fan today,
Yeah, like
but
George Kittle said.
it sucks. But I mean, there was nothing they can do at that point. That you have to play with the cards you're dealt with, and that's got to
Sometimes
be that.
that means 16 team veteran Josh Johnson is your quarterback going down the stretch of the NFC Championship game. It's just that's the cruel world of sports, man. Sometimes it works in your favor, especially like if you're an Eagles fan, and then sometimes it's just like, can things get any worse? And you're like, oh, you think things can't get worse? Just because Josh Johnson is, doesn't mean he's gonna finish the game.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what was crazy? I talked about this with a friend of the show, Alex, and how many flags are they going to throw on the 49ers? Like, they do know now,
That
right?
that
Like,
one drive, oof,
because
that
I was
one
just like,
drive was three. It was three illegal touchings down the field. I had
yeah,
never seen something like that, especially against a defense that's really good.
yeah. And I just, to the refs, I'm like, they're already up by so much. You don't need to help them. Like,
And the roughing the kicker penalty, the
yeah,
running
that
into the
was,
kicker, not even roughing,
oh,
running into the kicker.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
bro, we had a
they
bad
should just
weekend
tell
of
someone for it.
rain. First, it started with the Laker game because we don't need to talk about that to everyone. Never saw the Laker game, just watch the refereeing in that game. Then we had the 49ers Eagles game, and then now we'll probably just transition to the Nets game because that one was close. The Chiefs game where there was some spotty refereeing calls. There was, but I mean, did eventually see Kansas City beat the Bengals in quote unquote Burrowhead. And before you go off, I just have to say this. The Bengals had this coming. With all the trash that was being talked by the fans, the players, and then to top it all off with the mayor, like you had to win this game no matter what, and you didn't. And
Yeah,
all the
I don't
talk
know
that
if
was
you had to win it no matter what.
oh well, to me it was just like of all this talk, you need to go win. You win. You have to win it all. Like there's no way because if you do all this talking, and you just flat out don't win. That's how it
Well, if you
looks. I
get
mean, look at
embarrassed, like if they
yeah,
make you like, oh, like this is who you thought you guys were, like you're not even on our level. I mean, that I told Angel this right before we started recording. I think that is about as perfect as you can get for a playoff game, considering that not everybody's going to be 100% healthy in the NFL playoffs, and you're going to have to scheme and adjust around that. And the thing that was most incredible to me is that Burrow gets sacked twice on that opening drive, right, and three back-to-back plays, twice on the opening drive, and then when they got the ball back again. And the Chiefs only finished with 5 sacks. Like they made the
yeah,
adjustments that were needed. And I mean, you look at that fourth down play go ahead and where they go ahead and throw it to Chase downfield. And you look at that play, where amazing play there. You look at the play where they basically try to run the same route just with T. Higgins, and then the cornerback makes a deflection. The safety comes over, makes the interception, and even that one, like, all right, like it was Burrow's second interception on the game, but it basically ended up being just an arm punt, so it wasn't like it really hurt them in terms of field position. But yeah, that was a very entertaining game. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a player in these games, or a coach, or have my job being relied on this game, because I had so much adrenaline running through me just like after the fourth quarter. Like I didn't know
watching
what
it.
to do myself just from watching on the couch. Like I wasn't even neither of those teams really I really root for, and I was just sitting on the couch watching. I can't imagine like actually having an impact, which is why I said that I was not betting on any of these games this weekend, because I didn't have a feel for it, and I thought it was a really hard weekend to pick. But and even this game right here, I think it could have gone a million different ways. The Chiefs had a 10-point lead, 2 different points in the game. Like I thought there was potential where it could have been a blowout, even with Mahomes being limited. I do want to ask you, do you think he actually has like an actual high ankle sprain?
I think he does, but he just does a very good job hiding how much it probably hurts. I
I was
think that's
wondering if
what
maybe
it
it's just not a high ankle sprain and just like a regular ankle sprain, and they were trying to like play it up so the Bengals thought
could
like,
be.
oh,
Very
And
much could be.
and I did the only thing that worries me about this Chiefs fan, like if I was a fan going, thinking ahead about the Super Bowl, is like the Tyreek Hill trade almost bit them in the behind yesterday. Like they were
Yeah,
physically running out of playmakers.
yeah. No, it would look like that a lot because I mean they had so many wide receivers available at the beginning of the game, and then they lose Kadarius Toney, they lose McCole Hardman, they lose Juju. Now he's down to Sky Moore, MVS, and Kemp, who they just brought up the practice squad not too long ago. And that's them three and whoever they have at tight end next to Travis Kelsey. So it was basically down to them, but a lot of credit to Patrick Mahomes because he was able to pull it off. And I think one of the best plays of the game was that pass to MVS in the end zone for the touch. That was such a great pass. Like he read the needle perfect and got it right there for the touchdown and gave them the lead at that. Well, yeah, gave them the lead at that point. But overall, I felt like it was a good game. People were talking
I
about
thought the
how they
scramble
had
too. I thought the
yeah, the
scramble
scramble
too for
too.
him to trust his ankle and to get out of bounds, and he did flop a little bit, like he over exaggerated how much that
You
stuff
have to at
actually
that
happened,
point.
but he wanted to get the call. So I don't blame
Yep.
him, but I thought that was a huge play for him to actually take off like that. But I mean, the fumble, it was just a crazy game. The botch snap where Henderson falls on it. It was and so I was reading up about this game afterwards. I didn't see this play, but did you see Ronald Jones got a carry on a 2nd and 1 for
Yeah.
0
He
yards?
got a carry. He didn't do anything.
You know how many offensive snaps he's played this year?
M- Maybe 20.
38, and 17 of those
So
came
close.
week 18 against the Raiders.
So close. So close.
Like I just I don't know.
I guess
Sometimes
they
these
brought him on
coaches
because
this
they
year
didn't think Isaiah Pacheco was going to be that good.
I mean, but Pacheco, he was probably outside of Kelsey, he's probably their second best playmaker that they have left
Yeah, right
not
now.
injured. Because
Yep,
even
right
Tony,
now.
like Tony, I saw something that Tony gets for every route run, he gets the ball every other one. So 50% of the routes run, he's been getting the ball, and he doesn't play very high snap counts, but they clearly like getting the ball in his hands. And then he had the drop in the end zone, and then the next play hurts his ankle, and that was the last we saw from him. And then
Yep.
Hardman, who had been injured for majority of the season, he gets a catch, gets smacked, and then that's the last we see from Hardman.
Yep. I mean, it's definitely it was a good game, and I think we could both agree the MVP of the game was Chris Jones. He was unbelievable
Yeah,
in this game.
and
And
I was really surprised that he hadn't
didn't
had a
have,
postseason sack.
yeah, it was shocking to know that stat. I was like, really? You figured in all the games they played in like these past couple of years with Mahomes, he would have had at least like what, two minimum? But I do want to talk more about the plays on that apparently how everyone wants to love talking about the how the trending the NFL is rigged and
Dude,
how they
that
like
3rd down,
how they had
I had never seen anything like
yeah
that.
the
Like, that was
three
insane.
39s. The first one, obviously, I was like, okay, you just had mishaps with the clock and you just wanted to pause it and it's like, hey, we'll restart. Cool. I had no problem with that one. Then there's another play. Then the play runs, but one referee, in if anyone who saw the replay was coming, it's like, hey, botch the play, botch the play. The clock was running before when it's supposed to start at this time. And so then that happens again. And then we have a third and 9. And that's when Eli Apple
Yeah.
gets called for holding and it automatically makes it a first down. And people are just like,
But
oh,
nothing
that
ended
changed
up happening with the drive, which is the
yeah,
only thing that
people
saved
were
it.
like, "Oh, that changed the game." I was like, "The Chiefs punted the ball.
Yeah.
Like Joe Burrow had a chance to go and do something after, and for that whole conversation now is put to bed. Of like, Burrow is better than Mahomes because he's not. I like Joe Burrow, but he's not better than Mahomes. Mahomes on one leg had over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. A fully healthy Joe Burrow,
Yeah, but
less
with
than 300
3
yards,
backup
one
offensive linemen.
touchdowns, and 2 picks.
3 backup offensive linemen, though, on the
Look,
road, and
last
no
time I
running
checked, you
game.
have to play with the cards you're dealt with.
I understand, but Mahomes basically had his number 1 option all game
Well,
and a
yeah,
fully
Kelsey.
healthy offensive line.
I could also throw the card. He had 3 wide receivers go down.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But and Mahomes had a 10-point lead twice, evaporated
Yep.
at home.
The only
And
thing
this
I
is
will
what
say for
the third game in a row that they've given up a double-digit lead against the Bengals in the second half.
yeah. Also, would say to the Bengals, you had 2 shots in the fourth quarter to take
Yeah,
the lead
that's I think
and
the big thing.
do it. Joe Burrow, you threw a pick and
That's the big thing. But that
like
last
you
one, I
had an
mean, the pass to Chase was a pretty damn perfect pass. Like it
that
was
one was I texted you and he just said how your Ryan Fitzpatrick model, F it, someone is down there.
that was I mean, that was pretty damn perfect. And I mean, the Chiefs basically in the second half of that game were like, all right, we're not letting Higgins or Chase beat us. And Boyd had gone out earlier in that game, so it was basically down to Irvin and Hayden Hurst, which we saw Hurst get the big third down conversion late in the game when he was left basically just wide open. But I mean, I don't necessarily because I think Mahomes is the best we've ever seen play that position. Like I think that's the closest you can come to creating a player on Madden and then having him play in the
Real
uh,
life.
but Burrow to me, he just has like obviously he has the swag off the field, but on the field, like he just has like that's why I really do like the Joe Cool nickname for him because like even with the backup offensive line in the last couple of years, I mean he got sacked what 7 times in that Tennessee game and they still came back and won. They were down at halftime against Mahomes, and they came back and won that one. Uh, Yesterday they're down 10 points twice, 2 different times. I just think you should have scored one of the 2 times when you got the ball in the fourth quarter. I honestly thought when they got it right before the 2-minute warning that they would
They
go
were
down.
at
I
least
thought it
gonna
was
get
going
a
to be a
field goal.
similar situation as the Bills game where they were going to score, but it's like, all right, don't leave too much time for Mahomes because we've seen him do it time and time again. But I think really the unsung hero for that game is the special teams for the Chiefs because
Yeah,
they were
they did a great
pinning
job.
them every time with the punts. Like it was like 10-yard line, 5-yard line, 4-yard. Like they were pinning them with the punts. You got the big return from Sky Moore when they needed to set up that game winning drive. And there was something. Oh, and Bengals also got that illegal touching when the gunner down the first punt of the game after being out of bounds. So it's just crazy how much like these little things come back to haunt teams in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, this is like I don't even know what to compare it to. I know Romo weirdly compared it to Clyde Drexler and Michael Jordan, but the whole thing about the Clyde Drexler thing is he hadn't been to the finals before.
Yeah,
Burrow
and
just
Clyde didn't
did
have
this last
yes.
year. Like
Yeah.
there isn't really a comparison because I mean, I think it would. Honestly, to me, it feels as close as like when for NBA fans when we wanted to see either the LeBron Kobe matchup in the finals because like those were the two pinnacles and they were on either side. Honestly, to me, it would feel like if we got a Kobe Wade matchup where you're like, all right, we know Kobe's right here, but Wade is like right here, and they play the same
Yeah.
position.
Or you could probably say Kobe Mello because they were both in the same conference. So at least you can because right here in the West, and we could make the argument Mello was like right behind them, if not this close.
Yeah, especially
So
early Melo when they faced off when Melo was in Denver. Like, yeah, that was like when you're like, all right, these are two guys that know exactly what their job is, know that everything is gonna run through them and they're completely fine
yeah,
with it, which you see with these two guys. And honestly, it's just incredible to watch them play. And like I love that they play against each other. Like that
yeah,
that's the best part. And I honestly want the rivalry to keep going with Travis Kelsey calling the mayor a
the
jabroni,
mayor.
and you got to fight for your right to party. Like it was a fun matchup, man.
I loved especially the live stream at the end of some of the players in the locker room. They got a cigar and they were like, Eli Apple, this one's for you. That one got me.
Even Mo, I saw an interview with uh Patrick Mahomes Sr. saying he's smoking on that Burrow. I was like, hey, yo, these boys actually kind of have beef. And listen, I know it doesn't apply to this game, but to me, there is nothing better than watching NFL players sing that song. Yo, you got me? I am not sure if we are having some technical difficulties over here at 305 Takes with our Stream East, with our StreamYard stream going on right now. I do see myself. I don't know if I get anything from Angel. It's looking a little bit frozen, but I don't. Are you on mute? I'm not
No, I
getting any
got you.
audio.
You're good.
Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah. That's one of my favorite things is when the NFL teams go live after the games. It's honestly comedy, and for as much as we dissect and like they get mad at us because we really like I think I watch like a lot of football, maybe honestly too much. And like I really love
That's a
it. But
lot
like
of
if you ask me what the guard's responsibility is on maybe 85% of the plays, like outside of the ones where he's not like, kicking out or he's coming
yeah,
across on a run play or I can see the screen being set up. I can't tell you what his responsibility is.
yeah,
But they deserve games like that. Like that was a really fun game, and like it's like the duality of the sport because you have the first game which is super boring, and it's like the first game is like when they say like if you hit an animal you got to take it out of its misery instead of just leaving
yeah.
it there. That's what it felt like watching the 49ers the whole time. Like it's
That's a
just
good
like we
analogy.
know this is inevitable. Like can we just call it here? Like they don't have anybody else to pass the
Yeah,
ball. Like this is it. And then you get the late game, and it's like, oh my, like I felt so bad for 58. Like even though like the Chiefs would have gotten the ball with 8 seconds left, all they had to do is make another completion and get the field goal unit out. It's just that added 15 yards just made it. The next play will be the field
yeah.
goal attempt.
I do want to give a lot of credit to B because he did the post game interview
Yeah,
with
that was
on
super
number
cool to see him
58.
standing next to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, like be there, for your teammate. That's what you call a leader and a great teammate. So much respect
And
to
that's a
BJ
tough,
Hill.
tough spot for not only 58 and for BJ Hall, because I'm sure he was like, yeah, you could have stayed away from Mahomes, but he was there for his teammate. And like, that's what
Yeah,
and especially this Bengals team that, I mean, you can say it might have been a little bit overblown with the trash talk going into Kansas City, but they were confident going into that Buffalo game. They were,
very
obviously
confident.
picked off that there was even talk about this potential neutral site AFC championship game. I mean, they were clearly bugged that there was a possibility that there was going to be a coin flip between who would be the home team in that Ravens game. Remember, Mixon scored the touchdown and flipped the coin. So like they keep stuff back there. So it was definitely cool to see them come together like that and show like what unity they have in that locker room.
Yeah, no, it was good. I do uh want to get like when I saw number 58 just break down in the sideline, bro. You know what it reminded me of? The 2011 AFC Championship game, that kicker for the Ravens that missed a field goal. The
Oh
Patriots ended up going
yeah.
to
At the Patriots,
that
right?
second Super Bowl against the Giants. That's what it reminded me of. I just saw that play like go through my head again because I was watching and I'm like, oh man, the Ravens to like beat the Patriots in New England in the AFC title game, and he just missed a field goal, and because of that, Justin was drafted, became the new kicker, and the rest is history.
And it is
So
honestly like I don't like there's so many other plays that could have gone either way. Like
changed the
and
game.
like the way Mahomes obviously knew like he was gonna sell the call. The way like that he sold the call made it look so much worse. It made it look like
Yeah.
that was the dumbest play ever. Like it was like, all right, not only is he out of bounds, but now Mahomes is skidding across the sideline. But
Yeah,
shout out
bro,
to Mahomes.
that's
I didn't know he watched professional soccer.
yo, credit to him. He probably watched a lot of games and was
The
like, yo,
World
that guy
Cup, yeah.
Neymar, I got to do it. I mean, credit to him on that one. So, but I would say we did have an overall good weekend for the championship, and now down to the two teams. We get the both one seeds, the Eagles
Yeah.
and the Chiefs. And I mean, we'll just do like a little quick like analysis of it now. I think if we compare both teams on paper, there are some parts where one team is clearly has a big advantage where the other one doesn't. Quarterback,
I
I
just
feel like
want to
we can.
see how healthy the Chiefs can get because I think if
Yeah,
they're not going to have Tony, if they're not going to have, as I think Tony's really a big one for them to have. If they have Tony, then I think this game's pretty much 50-50. If they're not going to have
yeah.
Tony, that's a little bit tough. And
It's
I
tough
mean,
because
it'll be another 2 weeks until Mahomes plays, so he gets to, get
rep
even
his
more
ankle.
healthy. But after watching him play, I really don't have too many concerns unless like someone lands on his ankle or he goes down
Yeah.
awkwardly again.
Quarterback position, I think we could give the notch to Kansas City. It's
Yeah,
nothing against
100%.
Jalen. He's been great, but Mahomes is there.
And I don't
And
think
then
Jalen's 100% healthy. Like that deep ball that he missed to AJ Brown, where
it was
AJ like
bad.
had clearly won. I was like,
Yeah.
that's what they had been doing all season.
Yeah, they were hitting on that almost every game, and just wasn't there. Running back, I will have to say I'm going to give it to Philly just because
Yeah.
Gainwell and Sanders have been more of a consistent duo, and
And
Kansas
Scott
City.
again with a touchdown. Guy's a
Scott,
touchdown machine. Boston
told you,
Scott,
bro.
man.
Boston Scott is sneaky, man.
Touchdown
Sneaky.
machine.
Offensive line, I I want to say the Eagles. I
But Lane
really do.
Johnson hurt again.
Lane
They said he
Johnson's hurt
re-tore
again.
his groin. That's
So
a big loss.
so it could be Kansas City takes the notch on that one. Tight end, it's nothing against Dallas Goddard. Kelsey is just the
Yeah.
best right
It's just a
now.
different
Yeah.
yeah.
Goddard, I think, is top 5 in tight ends. I just don't think it's just the gap
Yeah, he's
between
not
1 and 2
yeah.
with Kelsey and George Kittle is too big of a gap right now. Wide receiver room, I think we got to give that to Philly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The thing is it's just that Philly's wide receiver room is just like, do I really trust Quez
It's so
Watkins?
top heavy.
Yeah,
AJ
that's it.
Brown and
Like
Devontae Smith.
but that's where Goddard comes in because it's like, all right, if
Yeah.
Goddard's going to be the third option, okay, then I trust it a little bit more. If they didn't have a tight end and it was really like Quez Watkins and they had somebody else running around out there
Zach
yesterday,
Pascal.
yeah, Zach Pascal. I'm like, is that really who I
Yeah.
want as my third option in the passing game?
And then if we go to defensive line, it's Chris Jones wasn't there for Kansas City. It would be so big of a gap, but you still have to give
Yeah.
it to Philadelphia. Linebacker,
Reddick is a menace, bro. Hassan
yeah,
Reddick is a menace.
he's gonna get paid. He will get paid.
And that's not, they got Hassan Reddick, they got Fletcher Cox, they got Brandon Graham. Like they are deep on that defense line.
Oh man, it's tough for Kansas City to match up with them. Linebacker wise, I actually feel that's more. I feel like that's closer than what people want to give it because Nick
I do like the
Bolton.
Bolton kid a lot for Kansas
Bolton
City.
is really good. Gay has been very good for the Chiefs. I don't know if he'll play on the Super Bowl. And then you have on the other side with Philly, they're just linebackers, but they've all been inducted this year. So I can't say anything about that. Secondary wise, I feel like it's not even a question. It's Philadelphia.
It is Philadelphia, but I do think the biggest problem that Kansas City had the previous years with their defense was that they weren't fast enough. And that because of
At
that,
least now they have a bunch of rookies so that can run with them.
and I feel like because of their lack of speed, they required the guy with the most defensive awareness, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, to try to overcompensate for everything. So that's why he was, sometimes at the line, sometimes he was playing linebacker, sometimes he was dropping back.
Yeah.
But I do like the combination of Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill. I think the McDuffie kid's actually pretty good. And, the thing is, L'Jarius Sneed, he will be hot and cold, which is, normal for a cornerback. It's just, the thing is, they didn't start him that first playoff game because they thought Jacksonville might try to say, like, hey, L'Jarius Sneed, you need to make tackles in the running game.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going up against the team that just set the record for most rushing touchdowns in a single season. So I would assume it would be the same type of game plan. So I do want to see what that does to L'Jarius Sneed if they continue to start him. And then the Eagles defense, they were making a lot of plays, but I do think if you can get Mahomes time, I do think there are opportunities where you can maybe get MVS going because I do think that they might struggle with the speed. And if the other thing was Juju playing.
Yeah, Juju played, but he left the game pretty early.
Because I legit forgot he was on the team for a second.
Yeah, Juju played. He got a catch, but he had to leave with a knee injury, so that does hurt the chances with them. Because if they were healthy, if they had like a healthy wide receiver room, I would pick Kansas City to have the better receivers because I do like the combination of Juju, MVS, and Tony more than I like the duo of Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. like the coin flip, but we'll see. I mean, we're definitely going to talk more about those matchups like later on
Yeah, we'll have
on
some
our
prop bets coming out for the Friday show. There are some
yeah.
stuff that I do like, yeah.
Yeah, and we are gonna we will be back on Friday to give you guys a show because it will still be a football Friday, but we just won't talk Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
We'll try to come up with some new show about going into the weekend because the week after is the Super Bowl, and we want to give a lot of our in-depth analysis at that time.
Yeah. And we'll
But
have more clear cut on who's playing or who's trending not
who's
to
not?
play. Yeah. Because even Kelsey, I mean, last
We
walkthrough,
had a back injury.
he is back seized up on him, so that was a big one too. But it was definitely a fun game. The last game, I'm glad that was the one that we ended the night with because it would have been a pretty stinky way to end the night if the roles were reversed and that Eagles game was the late game.
Oh man, I would have just been like, bro, do we have to talk about the late night game? That's how it would have been. It's like, do we have
Yeah, I
to?
probably would have went to sleep at halftime if Josh Johnson was in, and that was the late game.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty bad. But guys, we do want to thank you. We know the season's almost over, and we're still going to be putting out a podcast for you guys. And then once the season is over, don't worry, we'll be covering the off season as well. It will just be at different points when we do them, and we're going to try to get some basketball in
Yes,
because
sir.
we are Heat fans. We have been pretty frustrated this season, but that doesn't matter at the end of the day. But we had a great show. Can't wait to talk to you guys on Friday.
Till next time. Peace.